Nah, I ain't got my epidural yet. I'm waiting. Because my pains really ain't that bad. So I'm waiting. Okay. I'll be back, y'all. I gotta get in some questions.
Hey. Say hey. Say hey.
Do what she doing her spell time.
This is Alexus Watkins, a young mother who was choked to death while defending her mother from her deranged 16-year-old brother. The brother had changed the Wi-Fi password so he could continue gaming without any interference. But what might have seemed like a small issue at the time would trigger a series of events that would end in an unimaginable tragedy.
A Macon teen is sentenced to life in prison for choking his sister to death during a fight over a Wi-Fi password.
But what really happened? How could things have gotten that bad over a Wi-Fi password? Was there something more to this story? Let's explore. 19-year-old Alexis Brianna Watkins lived in Macon, Georgia with her family. This included her mom, Latoya Watkins, her 16-year-old brother, Kevon, her 13-year-old brother, and her 3-year-old son. Alexis was vibrant, outgoing, and so full of life. She loved her family and was especially close with her mom, whom she described as her mentor. In a Facebook post that she shared on her mom's birthday, she wrote, "Stop what you're doing and wish my mama a happy yay birthday. I can't count how many times I've rolled my eyes at the things you've told me about life just to find out they're all true, and I can't even thank you enough for asking me the woman I am well becoming. So thank you for everything. I love you." Alexis was in a long-term relationship with her high school boyfriend, who was also the father of her son. The two seemed to be really in love, as they would often post cute videos together.
Yeah, look who here.
Despite being so young, the two had gotten engaged and were looking forward to spending the rest of their lives together, so they were super excited when they had their first child.
Nah, I ain't got my epidural yet. I'm waiting. Because my pains really ain't that bad. So I'm waiting. Okay. I'll be back, y'all. I gotta get in some questions.
She would give birth to a beautiful baby boy named Cameron, who would become the center of her world. She wanted to be the best mother for him and was proud of every milestone he made.
Hey. Say hey. Say hey.
She posted this on his first birthday. "I'm so late because we've been busy all day, but happy first birthday to the only person who can make me smile by just existing. The first day I found out about you, I cried so bad because I thought I wouldn't be good enough to be your mom. But look at me. Well, look at you in particular, glowing and growing to be as smart and healthy as ever. I love you so much that I'm crying typing this. It went by so fast. Can you just stop growing for a little while?" Sadly, Alexis's life was brutally taken before she even got a chance to see her baby grow up. Like many teens his age, Alexis's brother Kevon loved playing computer games. He was also prone to violent mood swings, which at the time his family assumed were just normal teenage behavior. In the afternoon of February 2nd, 2018, his mom, Latoya, picked him up from school, and she could sense that he was in one of his bad moods. When they got home, Kevon went straight to his bedroom and became engrossed in his gaming, while Latoya went to lay down in her room as she was not feeling well. Alexis and the younger 13-year-old brother were home as well, doing their own things. At some point, Kevon became frustrated that his game system was too slow. He concluded that it was because there were too many people in the house using the Wi-Fi, so he decided to change the password so no one else could get it. It didn't take long for the other siblings to notice what he had done, and Kevon's little brother went to report him to their mom. Irritated by Kevon's behavior, Latoya went and unplugged the Wi-Fi router and brought it into her room. But Kevon was not about to let it go, so he stormed into his mother's room to confront her. Alexis heard the commotion and rushed over to her mom's room to defend her from her brother's outburst. Things had completely gotten out of control with Kevon, even threatening to physically harm his own mother. He pushed around saying, "I don't want to hit you." Fearing for her mother's safety, Alexis bravely stepped between the two and tried to make her brother come back to his senses. But Kevon seemed like someone possessed. Instead of stepping away and realizing that what he was doing was wrong, he turned on her and began wrestling her to the ground. ground. LaToya desperately tried to separate them, but she couldn't. Before long, Kevin had his arm around Alexis's neck, holding her tightly in a chokehold. Later, LaToya would say that her son's eyes were fixed, and they couldn't get him to let go. LaToya called 911 at around 5 p.m., and as she waited for the police to arrive, Kevon was still holding Alexis in a tight grip. The 13-year-old brother also called 911, telling the dispatcher, "My brother is trying to hit my mother." The dispatcher asked, "Is he on medication?" And the 13-year-old, "No, he's just crazy. He put her in a chokehold, threatening to beat my mum, trying to get him off my sister." When authorities arrived 10 minutes after the 911 call, they found Kevon with his sister still in a chokehold. At this point, she was unconscious and her body was limp. The officers ordered him to release her, and when he did, Alexis dropped to the ground. LaToya began screaming hysterically, and her daughter lay motionless on the ground. The officers started performing CPR, trying to resuscitate her, but it didn't work. Alexis was then rushed to the hospital, where they were able to resuscitate her and admitted her to the intensive care unit. She was diagnosed with cardiorespiratory failure and anoxic brain injury, which is caused by a lack of oxygen to the brain. Sadly, despite all the efforts to save her, Alexis died in the early hours of the following morning. The cause of death was ruled as anoxic brain injury resulting from asphyxiation. From the extensive damage to her organs, the medical examiner determined that she was without oxygen for about 15 minutes. Kevon broke down in tears when he was told that his sister had died, but he could not explain why he had not released her even when he felt her body go limp. He was arrested and charged with felony murder and was booked into a youth detention center. He waived his right to a jury trial and opted for a bench trial, believing that he would stand a much better chance if a judge listened to his case instead of a jury. The trial, which began in August 2019, offered a glimpse into the harrowing events that led to the fatal confrontation. The judge heard testimonies from different witnesses, including Kevon's mother, LaToya. LaToya testified that when her 13-year-old son complained to her that Kevon had changed the password so no one else could use it, she responded by unplugging the router and taking it to her room. Kevon then stormed into her bedroom and started grabbing something. It might have been a cord off the internet box. She testified that her daughter ran in and she grabbed him. "He acted like he was going to hit me." She said that Alexis hit Kevon, and a struggle between the two began on the bed and then moved to the floor. "I thought it was a normal brother-sister fight because they always fuss and fight like this," she said. But when she couldn't stop it, and after her 13-year-old son also tried and failed to push his older brother off his sister, the mom called 911. However, it was noted that LaToya's statement was a bit different from what she had told investigators. In this testimony, she made it seem like Alexis was the aggressor, but in her earlier statement to the police, she had said that Alexis only jumped in when she thought that Kevon was about to hit their mom. In her 911 call, she had said that she needed officers because her 16-year-old son is disorderly. She never mentioned anything about Alexis being the aggressor. The sheriff's deputy, who was the first to arrive at the scene, also testified, saying that he arrived about 7 to 10 minutes after the 911 call and found Kevon still holding Alexis around the neck. "He couldn't really explain to me why he didn't release her. When he told Kevon that his sister was dead and arrested him for murder, Kevon started crying, and the deputy cried too because it was a really sad situation. A medical expert explained that the human brain can tolerate 3 to 6 minutes without oxygen before permanent damage begins. After at least 10 minutes, a person is brain dead without oxygen. Even under the best estimation, by the time he got there, it had been at least 11 minutes that the defendant had to have been choking his sister. In those 10 minutes, she had to have stopped moving. Perhaps that wasn't noticed by the defendant because he was still angry." Alexis' boyfriend and father of the son, who is now serving 20 years in prison for another unrelated case, also testified about how it was normal for Kevon to disrespect his mother, fight with his siblings, and change the Wi-Fi password without much consequences. Kevon testified as well, saying that he and his sister would fight a lot, but he never intended to kill her. When asked why he hadn't let her go, he replied, "Because she was going to beat me." Kevon's lawyer had asked the judge to consider acquitting him or convicting him of a lesser charge of voluntary manslaughter or involuntary manslaughter, arguing that he had acted in self-defense, but the judge denied this request, saying, "There is no way that I could justifiably acquit him as having done nothing wrong. I don't see this as an accident." The judge did not agree with the involuntary manslaughter charge either, explaining that strangulation was a felony offense. The judge also considered voluntary manslaughter, but said that requires that there is such provocation that causes sudden, violent, irresistible passion in a person. The law says that if a voice of reason and humanity can be heard, that negates the ability to use voluntary manslaughter. The voice of reason and humanity that day was his 13-year-old brother, who tried to stop him from choking his sister. In the end, the judge found that Kayvon was guilty of felony murder and aggravated assault, as, while he didn't intend to kill his sister, he had intentionally placed her in a chokehold, which was an assault that resulted in her death. Despite being only 16 when he committed the crime, he was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole.
A Macon teen is sentenced to life in prison for choking his sister to death during a fight over a Wi-Fi password.
According to evidence in the case, in February of 2018, a then 16-year-old Kevon Watkins was arguing with his mom because he changed the Wi-Fi password to play video games. His sister Alexis stepped in and then started fighting.
According to testimony in the case, Kevon placed his sister in a chokehold for about 15 minutes. Deputies say she was still in the chokehold when they arrived on scene. Alexis died in the hospital later that night.
The family broke down in tears when they heard the sentence, and Kevon cried along with them. They never would have imagined that such a trivial fight between siblings could have such devastating consequences. They did not only lose a daughter, but a son as well. The judge said that the decision was one of the most difficult things she ever had to do since she took the bench in April 2014. While explaining her decision, she spoke directly to Kevon, acknowledging that the adults in his life failed him by not instilling discipline or teaching him how to manage his anger, saying, "One of the things that kept coming to mind was, what we ignore, we empower. In this household, chaos was empowered. In this household, the ability to ignore and follow corrective discipline was empowered. Even though I never knew you, I apologize to you that no intervention was made before it got to this point." The judge also said that Kevon's case was a horrible example of what excessive and obsessive gaming can do to a person. She said that Kevon's addiction to his game and his disregard for his family's needs led to this tragedy. She urged him to use his time in prison to get help and to educate others about the dangers of gaming addiction. Gaming addiction is a serious concern in the United States, affecting millions of people. When video game playing becomes compulsive and negatively impacts essential aspects of life, it can lead to what is known as internet gaming disorder. The World Health Organization even classified it as a mental health disorder.
According to the Census Bureau, playing 2 hours a day is average for video gamers. But for some, time spent at the controls goes way beyond that.
My nephew gets stuck in it, and he does it all night long.
How do his parents feel about this?
My nephew's in his 30s, so...
The World Health Organization has been studying the issue and now has formally classified gaming disorder as a mental health condition.
Symptoms of video game addiction may include neglecting duties at work, home, or school to play video games, thinking about video games all the time, playing video games to deal with anxiety, bad moods, or negative feelings, and feeling upset if you are not able to game.
The most at-risk kids generally tend to be teenagers. And male teenagers, boys.
This somehow explains Kevon's aggressive behavior towards his mother when she disconnected the Wi-Fi so he could not play anymore. Kevon was allowed to give a statement to the court before he was taken away in handcuffs. He kept saying, "I'm sorry," as he cried hysterically in court. The judge said sympathetically, "I think everyone understands," including this court. The district attorney later released a statement about the case saying, "This act of violence resulted in an unspeakable tragedy for this family. I hope this verdict and sentence closes the door on this chapter of their lives and that they will be able to begin to heal." On the first anniversary of Alexis's death, family and friends shared heartbreaking tributes on social media. Sandra Whitmore Brooks, who is Cameron's grandma and currently looking after him, wrote, "In life there are some things you wish never happened or that you could forget and never experience again. Well, on today last year, February 2nd, 2018, I wish to never relive. Receiving that call about you, Alexus B. Watkins, was the most horrible, shocking news I've ever received. In disbelief, screaming, crying, and confused, I rushed to the hospital. I knew you were a fighter. In my heart, I just knew you would pull through. I can remember begging God, saying, 'Please God, my grandson needs his mother,' telling God he's only one and doesn't have his father, and that he doesn't deserve this, as if God didn't already know about it. My prayer, but not God's plan. I still can't see why. All I know is he make no mistakes. I can't seem to shake and always visualize you lying looking at peace. That's what keeps me going, feeling you are at peace. A year has quickly passed us by. Alexis Alexis, you still live on in our hearts. You left behind a son, my adorable grandson Cameron with eyes like yours. Trust me, you live on through him. As I care for him, I see a little lion that's going to make it. He's such a happy kid. That's too funny for words, rib-tickling funny, just as you were. I'll always take care of him to the best of my ability and assure him of how much you loved him as you continue to peacefully rest. Here's a song dedicated to you. Cameron, love it. It's titled Mama Hands. Here's to you, Alexis, Rai, baby girl. Someone named Akara Cornelius, who appeared to have been a close friend of Alexis, wrote, "Excuse me if I'm not myself today. Just keep me in your prayers. It's been a whole year since you left, and I can feel it all in my chest again, knowing that you left around the time I was pregnant. I think that what hurt the most, because it was times you didn't think about me, but talked about Peyton 24/7, the first person to go all in for her when it wasn't even expected of you to do, but you felt obligated. You asked if Peyton could have a part of your name, and guess what? She did. Peyton Alexis. You called me your guardian angel, but in reality, you were mine the whole time. Nobody will ever understand unless they've been in this position, and I don't expect them to. I love you and miss you so much. One day, I hope to see you again." Another friend named Jada Davis posted, "Wanna thank God because he gave me a real-ass friend. Somebody I done called at 3 a.m. crying and she came, who guided me through my downfalls. Somebody who helped me with my child. Somebody who reminded me I'ma be somebody. Somebody who never told my secrets. A person who I did crimes with, and after that, we sat in the car and laughed. And don't mind me, I just miss her. And it's been a long 6 months. Rip Alexus Watkins." All this goes to show the kind of person Alexis was. A loyal and supportive friend, a caring and loving mother, and a devoted daughter. She really didn't deserve to lose her life like that, especially not in the hands of her own brother. What do you think about this case? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button.